Hey everyone, it's Reverend Jim Keat, digital minister at the Riverside Church, and this is the Word Made Fresh. Well, actually, this is me riding a bike, but you know what I mean. The weekly video Bible study where we look at a lectionary passage, talk about it, comment about it, do things with it, and then, there you go. Okay, let's go ride a bike. My wife's grandparents gave me that bike, and they gave her one too. They're great. They're like 20 years old, and we got new tires on, new seat on, and they work great. Okay, let's go check this out. So this is Tybee Island, which is off the coast of Georgia, and yeah, it's gorgeous. Just look at this. Are you a mermaid?
Yeah. Sure is.
Why are you a mermaid?
I'm a special needs teacher, and then I was teaching them how to swim and stuff, and all of a sudden it kind of bloomed into so much more, and now I do birthday parties and events and stuff like that, and right now we're out here just taking pictures for my Instagram.
This is the coolest thing in the world.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I love it. That is, and this is a great shot. I'll let you get the light while you got it. I love it. This is so cool. Thanks so much.
No problem.
You too. So, same ocean as the other videos, Atlantic, but different location. We're in Tybee Island, which is wow, and look at the lighthouse. That's what we were biking by. Tybee Island is just east of Savannah. It's pretty fantastic, and they have a mermaid here apparently. Who would have thought that there's a mermaid? Okay, none of that has to do with anything about today's video. Today's video is Matthew. We're in the Gospels, because that's what we do now, based on a poll I put on YouTube, so cool. Matthew 3:13-17 says this. Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. Now, this is John the Baptist. You've heard of him. He's the guy who's, living out in the wilderness, wearing all rugged clothes, eating locusts and honey, baptizing people. That's a whole other story. Where did John come from? What is this baptism he's doing? We'll get into that another time. It's worth noting that John and Jesus know each other. They're cousins, Mary and Elizabeth. Mary is Jesus' mom, and Elizabeth is John's mom. Okay. You know that from Christmas pageants. Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. John would have prevented him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me? But Jesus answered him, let it be so now, for it is proper for us in this way to fulfill all righteousness. Then he consented, John that is. And when Jesus had been baptized, just as he came up from the water, suddenly the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, this is my son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Okay, so let's take this text from two kind of directions. First, what is baptism doing within the context of this specific narrative, and with all the gospel narratives, and in general probably. And then second, let's talk about just baptism. So first, narratively, in the Gospels, when Jesus is baptized, that's kind of the moment when his ministry begins. It's kind of like what launches him into ministry. It's kind of the starting point, and then from there, we get a 3-year narrative, and we kind of know where that ends. It's coming up this Lent. I won't spoil it for you, but it's a downer. But then it gets good again. Baptism is that moment that launches you into this call of God to embody love and justice in the world around you. So before we get too far into theologizing around baptism, I just think it's interesting to recognize it kind of as that starting point. It's the green flag being waved at the racetrack. You are starting your engines and you are going somewhere. The point of baptism isn't to be like, cool, I took a bath and now I can chill. Baptism is the warm-up before the race begins. And that's what we see here with Jesus. His baptism is kind of what launches him into ministry. But now that leads us kind of theologically, what's happening in baptism. Now this is where there's generally two camps. At least that's how I divide it, because that works for me and for most of the theology books I've read and studied. You generally have credo baptism, credo meaning credo, I believe. So that's believer's baptism. And then on the other side, you have what at times is called infant baptism, but the people who believe in infant baptism also baptize older people. So I think it's more just like sacramental baptism. And it kind of comes down to a slight shift in how you look at what's happening. Credo baptism, believer's baptism, baptism is the person being baptized professing their faith. Baptism is an outward expression of an inward condition. Maybe you've heard that one before. So when you're baptized, it's your way of publicly saying you're a Christian or a person who is a part of this tradition. So it's your belief is what is driving the act. Your faith is what makes baptism powerful. On the other side, this infant baptism, sacramental baptism, I call it sacramental baptism because it's kind of looking at, well, it's a sacramental mentality. I'll get into that in a second. Basically, rather than saying it's my statement of belief, baptism from this point of view is God's statement of belief. Baptism is God saying to the person being baptized, I believe in you. Or I like to think it's the entire community saying to that person being baptized, we believe in you. It's not so much your individual expression, but it's the community and God's faith in you. Now, I'm going to show my cards. I went to a Reformed seminary, so I kind of land on this side of that spectrum. And I just think that's such a great picture. It's not this egocentric, individualistic, I believe posture, but it's this, we've got your back. I am because we are. God is the community holding me together. Oh, so that's your baptism 101. So here's what I want us to do in the comments. First, what do you think about Jesus' baptism? It's an interesting story. John being like, I can't baptize you. Yes, you can. Okay, I'll baptize you. Hey, look, here's the Holy Spirit. Did everyone else hear that voice? And then baptism in general, theologically speaking. What do you think? Credo baptism, sacramental baptism. Oh, it's called sacramental baptism because in sacraments, God is the one working through the sacrament. It's not me working, it's me receiving God. So anyway, go to the comments. I gotta go home and make some dinner. And check out that ocean. Okay, see you next week. And I feel like this show needs a catchphrase. How do we end each episode? Leave that as your third comment. What's the sign-off for the word made fresh? That's the word, keep it fresh. No, not that. Okay, figure it out. Talk to you later. Bye.